a dollar.
Welcome back. This is After the Ashes, the beautiful Altadena podcast on LA fire recovery and public policy. This is your co-host, Shauna.
And I'm Steve. Oh, we forgot to title our last one.
I know. We didn't title this one either.
Oh, season 2, episode 4.
Yes. It'll have a title before it goes live, but I think that's because we were flying a little by the seat of the pants on what we wanted to talk about. And that often informs the title. So don't worry. We'll have fear not, dear listener, there will be a pithy title that's probably too fucking long, because they all are, in good due time. And by good due time, I mean when these publish tomorrow. So fear not.
Or tonight.
Or are you doing it now?
No.
Wait, Steve is. Did everybody hear that? Steve is producing now, and he's going to handle it tonight.
I got to go to a Laker game tonight. My wife's never been to a Laker game.
You can do it remote.
My wife's never been to a Laker game before, so she's going.
Oh my gosh. So here's what we're going to open with, because we were closing the last episode talking about this and having a little chuckle to ourselves of like, oh my gosh, who listens to this podcast? So this,
Supposedly people binge it.
Apparently people binge it. So we are, it's hard to always pull all of the stats and metrics, because this is native on Buzzsprout where people listen, but it is also pushed out independently through YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, all manner of places, all of which have their own kind of ratings, algorithms, stats, etc. So if someone is, listening on Spotify, that doesn't cross over to YouTube stats or to Buzzsprout stats or Apple and so on and so forth. But for Spotify in particular, just one streaming platform, they have, you have your Spotify for Creators account, and they will run you through your year-end stats. So I was sharing this with Steve because I was like, wait, what? So it was cracking me up that for, 30 people, we are their like top show. And for
thank you.
10, we have 10 super fans. I don't know who you are, but to the 10 super fans, we love you. We're evidently also called a bingeable show because 55% of our listeners binge 2+ episodes a day.
So 4 out of the 6.
Those are our top. Fans. That's not all of our listeners, but our super fans. But so we were a 2025 binged show because 55% of the listeners streamed 2 or more episodes in a single day. We were a 2025 marathon show because fans listened to us for longer than 74% of other shows. And we were a 2025 instant hit show because our debut season was more popular than 80% of other new shows. So
the competition is fierce, folks.
The competition is fierce, but for whomever is listening, thank you. Thanks for sticking with us and listening.
You want to know who our competition is? You know
really
who the
insightful.
You know who the number 1 is? It's our governor's show is
10
million views and 230,000 subscribers
Holy
just
shit.
on YouTube.
Yeah.
But he trails even Ted Cruz.
Wild. Absolutely wild.
120 million listens and views.
Insane. So,
hey, guys, we're coming for you.
So there
the shit here is way better than what you got.
There is actually.
I don't need Charlie Kirk to get people to listen to me.
Oh shit! He went
sorry,
there.
I did it. I said I wasn't going to do it anymore.
He wasn't going to do it, then he did it. What was I going to say? Oh, that there was a great piece, media piece that you shared with me this morning.
That was what I pulled that from.
But it was so awesome. It was like Newsom is going to double down and stick with the podcast format that Democrats hate.
Well, because he's taken to Joe Rogan.
Mm-hmm.
He's the bruh. But he's the
man.
but he doesn't even say it. It's not bruh.
He's bruh.
He's got to be bruh. I got 15-year-old boys. I know what bruh means. I guess he's got boys too, because allegedly he runs them around to sports. Well,
I love that, allegedly.
No, that's what the article says, so he does. I mean, welcome to the club. I know I do that a lot. So
it's true. Half of Steve and I's conversations take place on speakerphone with his boys in the background, addressing me as Miss Dawson, and it's pretty fantastic because he's raising good young men. But I digress.
That's their mother. It has nothing to do with me.
Indeed, Steve gets some credit. So we're going to open this episode.
Sorry, I didn't mean this. Anyway, yes.
We're going to open this one.
Okay.
And we're going to keep it tight, listeners. Let's see if we can do it. We have a hard out. We're going to keep it tight.
Yeah, and I'm not going to write multiple,
Steve's not going to binge post after his break. Okay, so here's what we want to talk about. Some other news hitting that. So your favorite person,
my boy Blue,
your boy Blue, John Harabedian. We've been talking a bit about his audit, right?
Yes.
And so it's really out that, the audit's happening. It's underway. And I think, the big question that we continue to ask is, is this going to be enough, right? Is it going to go far enough? Is it going to have the subpoena power that, for example, the Altadena for Accountability Coalition that's been pushing so hard for our Attorney General, Rob Bonta, to open investigation? And, our friend, our good pal, Rob, in other news, is not running for governor. That came out over the weekend. He'll not run. I'll leave it to all of you to speculate about why not.
I think anybody who's read knows that there were $400,000 of campaign donations that had to, or of legal fees that were spent to investigate concerns that probably made it easier to
not run. Than run. So, lots of interesting developments. Let's
go back to Harabedian, because I think this is important. Or Harabedian.
Have we been saying his name wrong all this time?
I think it goes both ways. It's sort of like,
You're saying John goes both ways?
No.
I'm sorry, it's too easy. It was too easy. I'm sorry, John. That was a Steve dig and definitely not one at you. And even if you did, it would be nothing wrong with that. But the point was, is it Harabedian or Harabedian? Let us find out, because we want to be.
Yeah,
we want to say his name correctly.
I think there's an Anglified version, and the Armenian.
Well, we should be saying it correctly.
Well, I've heard him say it both ways, so
interesting.
Anyway.
Okay, the plot thickens.
All right, so
let's talk about this audit.
Let's not talk about him. Let's
talk about this audit, aka investigation. Is it an investigation, or is it? Can we call this that? I don't know.
So. It depends on what your term investigation means. Again, I'm not trying to parse words as a politician might. I think what this is the Joint Audit Committee. So this committee is supposed to go investigate various agencies within the government, both at the state and at the local level. And so it has the ability to go into the county, the city, as well as the state to look at its responses to anything that government is responsible for. It can't go to the federals, which is fine. We don't need the federals involved in this because, as we all know, the state and the city and county have had a lot of participation in both the immediate and then the follow-on aftermath. Now, this investigation really focuses on the fire itself, what happened to start it, and the immediate response to it. It's not about the long-tail recovery piece. That would have to be a separate audit that his committee.
So what is this audit looking at specifically? Can you walk us through?
It's looking at the issues that you're talking about. What happened the day of or in advance of it. What things?
Lack of preparation, lack of planning,
where
lack
were
of
they
resources.
Different agencies and what were they doing? Again, depending on the scale and scope of this, it's up to them to determine it. Then it can look at, the immediate response, what happened that day. So what the response from the fire department was, what the response from the county was, what resources were deployed, how they were deployed, what was done right, what was done wrong. Again, we've had many different investigations into this, like the McChrystal report and various subsequent ones.
Right.
But
FSRI, the UL report.
What happened in the mayor's office, potentially with the communications back and forth while she was out of town, what the responsibility of the deputy mayor
and that's
was.
Another important line, that this is investigating the full fire response. So this
is
Palisades,
to try to get a
Altadena,
picture. This is to
LA City, LA County.
This is the post-action report to try to find out what happened. Okay. Now, how deep it goes and where it goes depends on the cooperation of the agencies. So it's an independent auditor that does this investigation. And then that auditor will present those findings to the committee, and the committee can choose to have hearings based upon the findings in those documents. So while the auditor may not necessarily find fault on certain things, the committee might still ask questions to do more detail, depending on where the input comes from the community, et cetera. So to the extent that you guys, Altadena for Accountability has been focused on the Attorney General, which has subpoena power, the Joint Audit Committee also has subpoena power.
Right. And for anyone listening, do you want to explain for all of our listeners what the California Joint Committee, is?
It's a mouthful, which basically is a committee it's a joint committee from from the Assembly and the Senate, which go in and basically has the authority to go audit and investigate various government agencies. Very boring, very under the radar until something like this happens. And we just happen to have the chairman of that joint committee, who happens to be our Assemblyman.
Exactly.
So if I was looking for accountability, I would be focusing on where I have that kind of a relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And our assemblyman is a smart guy. He
Yeah, he
gets
is.
it. And,
He's supportive, and he wants to get it. He wants to understand.
look, this is a major issue that's affected his community. He was a freshman. He was thrown into into the fire, no pun intended. And he was stuck trying to, both him and Senator Perez were there, they had 2 weeks? Not even. I mean, they got sworn in the beginning of December. And as I said, the story with our assemblyman was he stepped in a pile of shit that night. I mean, it was just a harbinger for the year.
Right.
And so, but having this type of a resource available to us, depending on what the report comes back with, will be a critical component. Now, I would say that as members of the community, it's going to be important to work with the press, work with the community, and continue to press on the idea that, these are the questions you want to have the auditors look at. Now, while it's independent, if the auditors don't bring it up, that the committee hearings will ask these questions. So you may not necessarily get it in the initial report, but
it's going to raise and clearly illustrate all of the questions that could then be additional pressure could be exerted to get that.
I would also say that too, as you continue to establish a record, if the report doesn't include questions that, community's looking for, I think that that raises the ability to bring another audit, assuming he continues to remain the chairman of that committee. Also, but if he gets removed, then it makes us wonder why.
Yep.
I think it also presents an opportunity to continue to cast whatever they're doing in a light that, forces the electeds to have to take action. If for whatever reason they neglect certain portions of it, and it's on the record that these are things that have happened, which we all know, then I think that opens up the door. You look at the extent of the reporting that has come out of the LA Times particularly and the community in the last, let's say, 8 to 12 weeks prior to the anniversary. There's a lot of data that opens up a lot of areas for an audit to go.
Yeah,
and it'd be shocking, particularly with the way the LA Times has inventoried all the issues, that the auditors don't just turn to that and go down those roads. Now, the extent to which they're going to get answers, I think that leaves a lot of questions.
And I think that remains the big question, right? Is that there needs to be accountability. Isn't just about continuing to illustrate that, yeah, we know all these things failed and all these people and processes and none of it happened and it failed.
We have to move beyond blame. We have to move
Correct.
to solutions.
So that's my point. So does this provide the community with what they are looking for, which is meaningful justice and accountability, meaning, will there be an exploration if there was perhaps, anything that's even deemed criminal activity? I'm not suggesting that there is, but I think
the answer to your question
does it even pull all of the data? Does it have the ability to subpoena all of the full
data? It depends on
data?
how far the auditors want to go.
Well, and that's the question.
And again, I think if they don't address issues that are very obvious to the community, that opens the door to the question of why.
Correct. Because I think that, this needs to very clearly do what the McChrystal report did not, what the UL FSRI report will not, and what all of these reports cannot. They have not had subpoena power. They have not been able to collect the full scope of data. They have not been truly independent.
But they haven't been tasked to do that.
Correct.
And
which is what needs to happen.
That is why we created a joint audit committee for our assembly and our Senate, like our legislature. And so this is the intent of it. And if we don't do it here, it's never going to get done. Now, let's also remember too, we're at a point now, at least if I was the elected, that you have reached a juncture where reports have been done up to this point. Reports about the Woolsey fire. These issues that we had fail us are failing us because we're not implementing solutions.
Correct. And this is the other half of it that, if you pay attention to what the coalition's been asking for and why, how this is different or why what has happened so far is not sufficient. It is because it does not go far enough to actually force implementation, to force meaningful change. I mean, this is another one of these things where it's like we're a year in. We know from we have so far that we have multiple systems failures, multiple human error failures. But guess what? Still nothing meaningful being changed. It's like, oh, here, let's all go spend $1 to $3 million to rebuild our lots and have no guarantee this won't happen again.
So look, this is how government works, and you have to separate the process from what you're talking about on the ground is we need immediate action to solve or resolve the issues that are presenting us with the path forward, right? We need to be able to rebuild. We need to be able to move forward. We need to be able to understand, okay, that differs from what this audit really is going to be doing, which is going to be much more backward looking, which is going to be focusing on what happened in those early days after the fires, leading up to the fires, why we weren't prepared, what that's going to look like, and how we can stop that from happening again. I definitely think that there should be an audit, a subsequent follow-on audit into the response or the rebuild and the how we've addressed it in the aftermath. But that's probably a year away. When I've seen these reports in the past, depending on what the political motivation is, I've seen reports that look innocuous, that are audits, that all of a sudden become legislation and all of a sudden have become reform. And that becomes the basis. And this audit was the excuse to get it to that point, to get the key points to where we want to get it to. And then all of a sudden everything happens. I've also seen it where another effectively blue ribbon commission that presents their stuff and it goes into the file, it goes on the shelf. There's the audit report from 2025 that was the response, or 2026, the response to the fire. We put all this information on there, we have hearings, and then it never gets heard of again. I could see it go both ways. And that's why what you're asking me is, where is this going to go? That is going to be a matter of politics. I mean, and I'm just being brutally honest.
No, I think we know it.
It's a matter of...
all of this is.
Well, and I think it's a matter of...
Why we haven't had a real investigation up to now is a matter of politics.
Well, but we have the tool. That's the key. And so instead of advocating for a tool, it's advocating to use the tool correctly and to get maximum effect of that tool to allow the assemblyman to go back to, as the chairman of this committee and to say, my people are demanding this.
Yep.
I need to get answers because this is what my constituents are saying. Because this is where he can get mad. This is where he can go, God damn it, this happened to my people, my friends, my neighbors, my colleagues, my family. And these people are me.
Yeah.
And I want it done right. But that's his choice.
Mm-hmm. So, Steve, as we like to discuss how everyone can be their best advocate, is it time for us all to be writing letters to John's office? I'm sorry, John. Sorry, John.
No, I don't think that's the case. Because, again, he can't influence the outcome of the audit.
No, he can't.
It is an independent process.
Mm-hmm.
What I would be doing instead of, and I've said this before, is I would be working to build a relationship with his office, with his people here locally, and say, we want to ensure that when this report comes in, here's information that we think is important. And I would continue to work with the media the way you all have, because you guys have been extraordinarily effective, and make sure that the media is continuing to amplify the message, to continue to show that we need to get answers. And this is the path to get there. Because nothing makes electeds move more than the media. And it's not just Assemblyman Harabedian on this committee. There are members of the Senate. There are members of the Assembly on it. Now, what is the wild card in all of this? And this is the point that we need to make it so that this is continued to be remembered, is come after 26, there will be, after the election in November, committee assignments change.
Exactly.
Chairmanships change.
Yep.
Will Speaker Rivas
end up
changing who is on which committee, and will it no longer be our assemblyman who has
who wants to
this?
champion some of this versus someone else who does not have that connection or commitment?
And how does that fit?
Yep.
So I would say,
And I think it's safe to assume that this audit will not be complete by the time that flips. I don't know.
think you have
Do you
to
think it'll
talk
be
to the
rushed and be
Assemblyman.
done? Yeah.
I think, if I was in the media, I'd ask him that question.
Yep.
Because and if it's buried, why is it buried?
Exactly.
So, I think there's a lot here. I think it could be the tool to get you what you want.
It could be.
But like everything, you have to pursue multiple paths. Look, come this time next year, Attorney General Bonta may not be Attorney General.
Yeah. I mean, hey, who knows? You never know what's going to come out between now and then and who ends up elected. I have to say, I talk about often now the fact that I think that lots of fire survivors and people in our shoes have to consider running for offices that they never in a million years would have considered because...
Are you going to run for Attorney General, Shauna?
No, I'm not. But I met someone who is. It was like a young kid, Lalo, L-A-L-O.
Is he running for Attorney General or Insurance Commissioner?
I think he was actually running for Insurance Commissioner, not for AG. But, and will he have a shot? A very, very slim, long one. But the fact that there are young people motivated to be part of the process and to enter that, is inspiring. Like, we need to see more of that. And it was great to see young people taking that on. I look at also, like someone I've talked about before who I love, who's the LA City Controller, Mejia.
Yeah.
Who actually has, is doing a lot. And who, by the way, they're trying to shut him down. They tried to gut his office, and he's literally the only independent auditor at all that exists for the city. County doesn't have one, which we've talked about. I don't know if we've talked about that here. We've talked about it in our group. But, this raises a lot of questions. Again, we asked a lot, where is the money? But how about where's the money going? We know it's not just about, hey, we don't have the money, but also we have so much money. And other than paying out lawsuits, legal settlements, where is all this money going, right? So I think with that, do we think that any financial tools and solutions are coming? Does it feel like we have anything on the horizon? We have some things that just dropped. We have the LA County Emergency Rent Relief Fund. That's, a drop in the bucket, but it's something.
I think you're going to see nibbles around the edge. I think you're not going to see the mass solution just yet. I think we're going to see people messing around with CRA now. I think there'll be various potential solutions using CRA dollars and banks to catalyze some of this money, or at least try. Yeah, I think enough time has passed where people could say, "Well, 797's buried. What next?"
Right.
I have been told through the grapevine that it's not dead. Like, maybe the bill is dead, but the concept's not dead. They just
have to figure out how to package it in a palatable way.
Well, this way it doesn't. It different enough. You got to put lipstick on the pig enough.
Yep.
Which is fine because again, all of this was designed to help the community. So, I mean, if you want to take credit for it, just take it. I don't give a shit. If it gives my people in my community the ability to get what they need, it was never about me.
Yeah.
And I mean, that I've said that
well,
from the
if it was
start.
about you, your name would have been on it, and it wasn't.
Well, my name was attached to it. I was not shy.
Buried, though.
I know, but at the end of the day,
people don't realize that had anything to do with you. So I think it's safe to say it was not about you.
Well, it's the Assemblyman who did it. He had the balls
exactly.
to put it up there. But what I'm saying is, like, that model needs to be. He had the courage to take on something brand new, which I give him 110% credit for. I just think that we're gonna see things start to happen because they have to. I just don't know what the answer is. I don't know if it's going to be, we're going to see like solutions for low-income folks to try to go back to a model that at the outset I had put out there on my Substack, where like a shared equity type model or like a no interest loan type model, which is effectively a shared equity model.
Right.
Where, money comes in and then goes out. where people aren't going to, the idea is not to burden borrowers with more debt.
With more debt, right? With just layering debt. But it does sound like,
I think that there are rumblings starting.
Yep. It sounds like there is a possibility that we're going to get some financial tools, and maybe we will get
Potentially.
some sort of lending for people to help bridge the gap if they didn't have an SBA loan or if that was not even sufficient.
Well, I think that the state has realized. So the interesting calculus right now is going to be: do you push forward and bring a solution to the table because you're a year in, or do you wait to see how the election turns out, because it looks like the Democrats are going to take definitely the House the way things are going with the Republicans, and potentially the Senate, and use that to just push through? I mean, again, you still have to wait for Trump to authorize the money, but will he care in his last 2 years? I guess that was the bet that the machine had for the first year, was wait long enough, see if a disaster hits. And, we were victims of that. So what does that look like now? I don't know. You asked the question, and I'm just thinking it through out loud.
Right. I mean, there's a lot of interesting questions for this year. So, and that's one of the ones that should be asked.
Yeah.
It's like I keep asking too, like, will we get our opportunity zones? Like, is that a possibility?
That is a possibility.
I'm hoping,
the
I
Hill
hope it is. That one
the
for
folks
me
in
is
D.C.
huge.
are very interested in that because it makes sense. It's an easy way to bring in outside capital. I think that that's something that the federals can do that they don't have. They don't have to depend on the state, and I think it's something that has bipartisan support in both houses. In fact, opportunity zones are considered, kind of verboten here in California because everyone thinks it's about giving rich people the opportunity to come in. But I think if California did it right,
well, we've seen it done right. It was done right in Old Pasadena.
Well, that's
right.
as much redevelopment, and I think
correct. But it's done right in downtown Los Angeles.
But the proponents of the CRD will say that's nothing different. The CRD is just a modern version of the redevelopment agencies. But I think what has to happen is, and I think if I was designing this when I was looking at it, was the idea that most of that money from the opportunity zone money can't just be coming in and flooding the market to just acquire real estate, because otherwise it just becomes a giant real estate play. And I think that it has to be something a little bit more innovative from an economic development perspective, to bring in new jobs, to bring in homes, to build homes. I think also the way we have to do it, again, it runs counter. The federal government and the president are finally realizing that we have to be careful with corporate ownership over homes.
Yep.
And so how that marries in with opportunity zones, I'm not exactly sure. So that's something that's going to have to be negotiated. But I think that the idea of bringing in investor money, and I think also, frankly, opportunity zones, if you're not a current opportunity zone area, I think you have to make it so that it's more of a tax deferral as opposed to a tax, just like an out-and-out tax credit. Because there has to be a risk-reward component, and because areas like Altadena will come back and be valuable as opposed to some of the more, pressing areas, you don't want to see that money dilute and be taken away from communities that really need the money.
Yeah.
So I think that, there are complications, but these are not hurdles that can't be overcome.
Exactly. I mean, there are always, complications, but I think, as I've been saying this for a long time in various circles and contexts, is that, if the answer is no, then reframe the question.
The answer is yes. It's how. And I mean,
we can't always get what we want, but maybe we can get close.
You can get close.
Exactly.
And all politics is, if both sides don't walk away unhappy, then you haven't done your job. And it's true.
Yeah, it's true. Everyone has to feel like they had to give a little up. But
but I think that there are solutions, and I think that the feds are looking at it. I think, there's the question about, how do we bring, how can we get, and especially at the state and the federal level, how do we get more inventory of homes on the market? And I think that it was interesting that AEI before Christmas brought out that notion of the capital gains tax, doubling it. And I think that we could start with disaster areas where people are forced to sell, and, kind of turn some of that liquidity over and give them, where people are holding on because they're like, I don't want to have to pay a massive capital gain on my home,
right?
Because I'm being forced to sell before I can have proper estate
planning. It's not on the topics for today, but we've talked about that, the need to reform a lot of that, the need to revisit Prop 13, the
Well,
need
because
to
we're
revisit
dealing with
cap gains. This
we're
stuff
dealing
is
with
20, 30
areas-
years old. And
And we're dealing with areas like California, Florida, along the coasts, where these disasters are hitting, the Carolinas, where it's not just that there has been appreciation of these homes, like tremendous appreciation of these homes. So we have to acknowledge the reality that exists. And, it's not a giveaway to California. It's a solution to try to solve a bigger problem. And when I think about Prop 13 reform, I think about, the cap gains at the federal level on housing. And again, I think about it from the perspective of if we do it there, all we're potentially doing is moving up the timeline of the bulge that's going to sell anyway. And I think it's really important because I think millennials are being set back 15 years or so in terms of their ability to purchase homes. And I think that we're losing wealth on two ends. Not only are they going to pay an inflated premium to buy these homes that are already inflating because they're being held off the market because of forces that have been created due to certain incentives, but we're also losing wealth because they're not building that wealth, and that wealth is going where? And so, this is a generation that's going to have to support the next generation and the next generation. And so
we're just layering the burden.
We're double screwing ourselves
Yep.
to continue to support the wealthiest generation ever existed, which is the baby boomers. And I always tell my grandmother, who's still alive at 99 years old, she goes, "You rotten grandchildren." And I go, "Well, it's because of your children, Grandma, and that's your fault. You made it too easy for them, and then they made rotten children, and that's why you have rotten grandchildren." And I joke about it, but I also think, in a sense, we have to reset the calibration because the baby boomers can't drive all the agenda all the time.
Nor should they.
And I think that in California, it's especially acute, but I think nationally, you still see this distortion. Some will say, yes, there's still the low cost mortgages that are also holding people to their homes. I think that's a secondary concern. I think the bigger concern is, what about those folks that are baby boomers that are in homes way too big for them, but they don't want to leave because if they leave,
it would cost too much.
They'll lose the cap gains, plus they'll lose their, Prop 13, they can take that gain over to somewhere else, but I think there's the federal piece to that too. Sorry, you got me.
No,
on
don't
that
be
topic.
sorry. I mean, I think,
Because I think we're a microcosm of all these problems
correct.
here.
Exactly. We are just an example of what is playing out on a much larger stage, on a number of levels, right? And anyhow, not just with our property values, with interest rates. Anyhow, I'm looking at the clock. I had a whole other path to go down, but we're going to save it for the next episode next week because
Now I'm curious.
it's time. You'll have to hold your curiosity.
Well, anyway, you got me kind of out of my funk.
Good.
I'd
I'm
like to talk
glad.
about something productive.
We just shake Steve out of it. We just shake Steve out of his funk. It's a new session, right? A new legislative session this year. So I'm very curious to see what's going to come of this and what we're going to get out of it.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a critical one because after this session, everything reshuffles.
Yeah.
From a leadership perspective, and we may not have the tools that we have today. So
Correct. So here we go. We get to wait and see. I'm going to wrap this up by going back to the LA County Rent Relief Program because I want to roll through that quickly for people. It's the Emergency Rent Relief Program. That is, so rent relief sounds like it would be tenant oriented. It's not really. So I'm going to not bury the lead. That's the truth. Spoiler, it's probably not going to help the people it should directly, like so many things, but hopefully there'll be some benefit. So the way this is phrased, that if you were a landlord or tenant affected by the 2025 Eaton or Palisades fire, I crack this up. This makes me laugh every time because it's the line SCE uses every time you call them. The windstorm event. They're always like, "Were you impacted by the windstorm event?" I was like, "Not really, but I was impacted by
to insurance,
not taking care of your equipment and burning my town down." But I digress. Or any other emergency financial hardship, you may be eligible for assistance. The application is open now. We're in the window. The deadline to submit is Friday, January 23rd, which is right around the corner. So this is a DCBA program to the County Department of Consumer and Business Affairs. And the program is going to prioritize small landlords with 4 or fewer rental units to help them mitigate what is described as detrimental emergency financial hardship, while also reducing the number of tenants evicted due to unpaid rents. So they are going to cover through a grant up to 6 months of rent debt. And with limited exceptions, the maximum award is $15,000 per rental unit. So this is money that goes directly to your landlord. But if you are in arrears up to 6 months of rent, great, that money goes straight to the landlord, but it should benefit you, the tenant, by actually, preventing eviction and getting you out from under that debt. So while the tenant cannot directly apply for the program, they can refer their landlord. So that's the most important point I wanted to make here. If you're a renter, you're a tenant, you can complete the interest form on this website that is lacountyrentrelief.com, and you can actually refer. It's not the application your landlord has to apply, but you can at least get this referral in on your landlord's behalf if you think this could benefit you. So I genuinely hope that brings some sort of financial relief for our renters in the community who so desperately need this. And the way this is written, it also applies to people who are displaced from their primary residence and are using a rental right now and perhaps do not have ALE or have run out of ALE. So
it gives a little bit of an extension for that.
Correct. It's critical on a lot of levels. This could benefit many people. And so that's why I wanted, even though we don't specifically speak to all of these programs, because I feel like there's so many resources to find that information at this point, this one I felt like is important enough on multiple levels that I wanted to amplify that and share it. And as we wrap up for this episode and think about our small business for today, I'm going to just refer everybody to go check out Bevel Coffee. On Lake. Bevel was a pop-up at Prime Pizza. We've spoken about them in another episode last year.
On Allen?
Correct. They are making really great progress on their own brick and mortar that is right there on Allen, just south of Prime Pizza, just north of Altadena Bev, and I highly recommend people go over and check it out, follow them on social media, keep abreast of what they're doing in their developments. They're also just good people who continue to double down on their investment in the community and deserve everybody's support. So go check out Bevel Coffee. Find them on Instagram.
Indeed. All right. So that's it. We're going to let those bingers get out early.
That's right. This is the reward for the last 3 hour-long episodes. This one should be a little tighter.
We weren't that bad.
We're not that bad. So again, I'm Shauna Dawson-Beer, beautiful Altadena. Thank you for listening. You can find us online. You can submit questions, comments, anything you'd like covered through our email, beautifulaltadenaog@gmail.com, and also through Substack. And you can find us everywhere you have social media at Beautiful Altadena.
And you got Steve Sachs, the Alta Policy Wonk, and you got to hear me go wonky today, so I apologize.
He got wonky, but he also got his groove back. This is I might title this episode when Steve gets his groove back.
Yeah, well, thank you. Thank you for getting me somewhat out of my funk.
That's what we do for each other. He's always trying to get me punchy. I hope to get him a little punchy too.
Well, anyway, everybody, thank you so much for listening. And, to all those that have been supportive of us for the last year.
Thank you.
Supporting our community
since September.
Yeah.
But we've been doing this since last September. But
yeah.
Everyone who's been supporting us in the community for a year, thank you.
Yeah.
And thanks for sticking it out.
Yeah. It's been a ride, but
it's been a ride, all right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Until next time.
Bye now.